Um, so in the news for this week, we have 20. There was 26 people. Out of 34, there was 26 out of 34 people that were arrested. So 8 are still on the run. But of the 26 people that got arrested, they were arrested for trafficking meth and fentanyl. Um, a federal grand jury sitting in the a federal grand jury sitting in Louisville, Kentucky has charged 34 Louisville and Southern Indiana residents in 4 separate indictments involving crystal meth and fentanyl trafficking, as well as a firearms offense. And it was announced by multiple agencies on Tuesday. Um, Now, 26 of the 34 defendants have been arrested and were scheduled to make their initial court appearances before a U.S. magistrate judge at a U.S. district court in Louisville by Wednesday afternoon. The other 8 were still at large as of Tuesday afternoon of last week. Now, if convicted, all of the defendants face minimum sentences ranging from 10 to 35 years, and each of them could receive a maximum prison sentence of up to life if they're also found guilty. A federal district court judge will determine any sentence after considering the sentencing guideline and other statutory factors. There is no parole in the federal system. Now, the cases are being investigated by the FBI, HSI, the IRS, CI, and the Louisville Metro Police Department, with assistance from the Kentucky State Police, the Shepherdsville Police Department, the Jeffersonville, Indiana Police Department, and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Now this effort is part of an organized crime drug enforcement task force. The purpose of which is to identify, disrupt, and dismantle the highest level criminal organizations that threaten the United States, using a prosecutor-led, intelligence-driven, multi-agency approach. Now, the additional information about the program can be found at the www.justice.gov. Now, the U.S. Attorney, Michael A. Bennett of the Western District of Kentucky, and the acting special agent in charge, Brian Jones of the FBI Louisville Field Office, the special agent in charge, Rana Sowald of Homeland Security Investigations in Nashville, and the special agent in charge, Brant Jackson of the Internal Revenue, have made these announcements. Let's see. A Chicago man last week was freed after serving 34 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. So basically, a man is now free after spending decades in prison for a murder he did not commit at all. A judge had vacated the conviction and sentence of Francisco Benitez on Tuesday after he spent 34 years in prison for a murder he was not guilty of. The 52-year-old man was released from prison after a Cook County judge threw out his conviction and sentence for a double murder he did not commit. Now, over the objections of prosecutors, Francisco Benitez is released without having to post bond, but he will have to wear an ankle monitor and return to court in September. But as of Tuesday night, he is free. It's indescribable, Benitez said after hugging his mother outside the Cook County jail. And this has been a very, very long road, and I'm glad my son is coming home, Benitez's mother, Betty Benitez, had said. Francisco Benitez was convicted in September of 1991, and back in 1989 he was arrested when he was just 18 years old, but maintained his innocence, saying that he had an alibi, and that he was being framed by Chicago Police Department detectives. And you can't have faith in the system, to be honest, you know what I mean? Benitez's brother, Victor Benitez, said, because look what happens when you do have faith in the system. Now, Benitez's attorney said he was convicted in part on a confession coerced by Area 5 detectives, and lawyers with the Exoneration Project and a private firm took his case. At an evidentiary hearing back in April, attorneys for Benitez presented new eyewitness evidence saying that he did not shoot the teenagers that he was convicted of killing. Now, the third man to have a conviction vacated. He's the third man to have a conviction and vacated, and come home based on actions that they took as police officers to frame innocent men. Now, the Benitez's advocates said that a former gang unit officer came forward and made it in court that he never believed Benitez was the right suspect in the first place. But 2 eyewitnesses to the crime, who are now adults, said Benitez did not commit the murders, and that they didn't come forward earlier because their mother told them not to say anything about what they had seen. Now look at the family still here after 34 years, just like they were for the first time, and it was ripped from them. All the new evidence and testimony convinced the court Benitez was not the killer and that his confession had been coerced out of him. After leaving the jail, Benitez said that he was headed to Humboldt Park for a restaurant called Jimmy's Red Hots for his first meal as a free man in more than 30 years. See, I grew up in Humboldt Park, but I do not remember that restaurant, Jimmy's Red Hots. A Crown Point person is bidding $150,000 for famous bank robber John Dillinger's escaped police car. Indiana has lost more than 260 acres of wetlands since Republicans rolled back the protections on the land. Indiana has lost more than 260 acres of wetlands since Republicans had removed protections for most of the lands back in 2020. That's bigger than the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Among other things, wetlands provide a habitat for wildlife. It reduces flooding, and it improves the water quality and it stores the carbon emissions. Back in 2020, the SEA 389 had removed protections for a whole class of small wetlands and nixed protections for another class of wetlands that the states consider somewhat rare or ecologically important. But since that time, wetland advocates say the Indiana Department of Environmental Management has issued permits to build on nearly 350 acres of wetlands in the state, and only a quarter of those acres still will have to be rebuilt elsewhere. Now those lost wetlands could store up to about 390 million gallons of water, which means that these areas will now be more susceptible to flooding. Indra Frank is with the Hoosier Environmental Council, which helped compile the report along with 13 other conservation groups. So the flood response teams, our hazard mitigation teams, the stormwater managers in our cities and counties are all going to have to pick up the loss of that water storage, and this could lead to a higher water bills for residents. Now, Indra Frank said that the IDEM's data doesn't show where each wetland loss occurred, but there are some clues based on the State Department of Natural Resources program to replace these wetlands. It appears that the wetland loss is happening fastest in central India and the upper Indiana, and the upper White River watershed, she said. And this shouldn't come as a damn surprise, but counties in Indianapolis' metro area have experienced the fastest growth in the state in recent years, which means more homes, buildings, and roads are being built in that area. And now this week, the Environmental Protection Agency removed significant federal protections for wetlands in the country as the result of a U.S. Supreme Court ruling. Without state protections to fill in the gap, it's likely Indiana will lose even more wetlands in the future. Now, last year, a state task force recommended Indiana to have a separate state law to regulate wetlands that isn't bound to federal rules. But let's see if that ever happens. Now, a few months ago, a Connecticut man, had found $5,000 outside a bank in the parking lot, and he took the money, and then he was arrested 3 months later. Now, a Connecticut man says that he felt like he won the lottery when he discovered nearly $5,000 in cash, but police said it was clearly marked with the bank's logo. A Connecticut man says he felt like he won the lottery when he discovered a bag containing $5,000 in cash lying in the parking lot of the bank. So, in his mind, he decided he's going to keep it. Now, 3 months later, he's being charged with larceny. As it turns out, the bag, which Trumbull police said was clearly marked with the bank's logo and found outside the same bank, contained cash from the town's tax department that was going to the bank. There were also numerous documents inside identifying the rightful owner of the cash, as the town of Trumbull police said. The man who kept the money, Robert Withington, who's 56 of Trumbull, contends he did not steal the money, and he lied and said he did not notice anything inside the bank indicated who the owner was. He basically said, "Oh, it's not like this was planned out," Withington told Hearst Connecticut media. Basically, he claimed everything was in the moment. It was like he hit the lottery, and that was it. Yeah, I doubt that. The Associated Press on Tuesday left a message seeking comment on Withington's business cell phone. Now, other numbers listed for Withington were no longer in service, but the money went missing on May 30th. Police said an employee in the Trumbull tax collector's office couldn't find the bag after arriving at the bank to make a deposit during regular business hours. But according to a police news release, over the next several months, detectives obtained search warrants. They reviewed multiple surveillance videos from local businesses and conducted numerous interviews before learning the bag had been inadvertently dropped outside on the ground outside the bank, and Withington had picked it up. Basically, he said, "Oh, I walked out into the parking lot, saw something on the ground, and there was no one around, so he picked it up." He's like, he's claiming it's not like I stole anything. Well, you did steal $5,000. He basically said if he knew that I was wrong in the first place, which you were, he said he would have given it right back, which you didn't. And he basically says I didn't think he claims he didn't think that he did anything wrong, which he did. When police eventually interviewed Withington, they said he acknowledged being at the bank that day and took the bag. He told them that he believed he had no obligation to return the bag to its rightful owner. I'm guessing you had every obligation to return the bag, and you didn't. Now, Withington runs a dog training business. He told Hearst that he's never had a criminal record, and that his customers can vouch for his integrity. But he was charged Friday with a third-degree larceny, which is a felony punishable for up to 5 years in prison, and he would have to pay $5,000 in fines, which is what he stole. He was released on a promise to appear in court on September 5th. And he claims he was not looking for trouble, but obviously he is. So that's all for the news. Let's go on to sports. My Chicago Cubs team were down 6-4 yesterday, and they came back and won 11-8, which is still pretty good. Kyle Hendricks pitched the game yesterday, but obviously he got a no decision. Obviously, Kyle Hendricks has been a disappointment this year for the Cubs. The best pitcher that the Cubs have had this year has been Justin Steele. Justin Steele, on Monday, won his 16th game in a Cubs uniform. One of the worst hitters in baseball, Martin Maldonado for the Houston Astros, had homered twice yesterday. And on top of the Houston Astros, Jose Altuve becomes the fourth player in Major League history to hit a home run, to homer 3 times in the first 3 innings. Obviously, I'm not sure who the other 3 players are, so don't ask me on that one. For the Cubs yesterday, they got home runs from Christopher Morel and Seiya Suzuki. Kyle Hendricks pitched 5 innings. He struck out 5. Struggling pitcher Drew Smiley, who was a starter this year, was moved into relief. Got the win. He struck out 2. Now, basically the Kansas City Royals were down 6-0 in one of the innings, and they won on a balk by the White Sox pitcher. Yeah, Gregory Santos for the for the for the Sox, for the Chicago Sox, had balked, and like I said, they were down 6-0 and came back and won 7-0. Nelson Velasquez, who was playing for the Cubs at the start of the year, and the Cubs traded them to Kansas City, has basically just been lights out since he got traded to Kansas City. He's been homering like crazy out there. And with that home run, since he got traded, that's like his 11th homer of the year. Between Dylan Cease basically was pitching for the Sox, but obviously he got a no decision. But he did strike out 7 batters in 5 innings. Santos, like I said, took the loss because he balked with the base when the bases were loaded, and that gave Kansas City the win. And because Kansas City was at home, that's just how it is. The Yankees won yesterday 5-1, beating the Detroit Tigers 5-1. Giancarlo Stanton for the Yankees hit his 400th career home run last night. That was bound to happen. Also in the game, DJ LeMahieu homered. He's another former Cub player. With his home run, it was the 15th of the year. With Stanton's homer, it was the 22nd of the year. Stanton has been on the injured list a lot of times this year, along with Aaron Judge, so their home runs are not that high. Garrett Cole got the win for the Yankees. He struck out 7. Wentz took the loss for Detroit, which was his 11th of the year. Merrill Kelly, this was it Monday or Tuesday, had struck out like 12 batters, and he got the win too. Well, let me see what day that was. It might have been Monday. Let me see here. Maybe this one when they won 4-2. Yeah, because Justin Steele for the Cubs on Monday struck out 12, and Merrill Kelly also struck out 12 for Arizona Diamondbacks. Yeah, Merrill Kelly struck out 12, and he got his 11th win of the year. Lambert for Colorado on Monday took the loss, striking out 5. Now, with the 2 home runs that Maldonado had hit yesterday, that was his 12th and 13th home runs of the year. And with, like I said, with Stanton homering yesterday, that was his 400th of his career. The Pittsburgh Pirates have announced that Andrew McCutchen will miss the rest of the season, which is only like a month left anyway, not even that. And he tore his Achilles. He tore his Achilles on the tendon, so he'll be out for the rest of the year. Kyle Schwarber basically hit his 40th home run. I think was it Monday. Obviously, he's not having the best season in the National batting average because he's only batting 192 on the year, but somehow he still managed to hit 40 homers. Matt Olson for the Atlanta Braves hit his 45th home run of the year, which is what he's leading the league in, other than Shohei Ohtani and Pete Alonso. For the New York Mets, Jose Quintana gets his 2nd win of the year, and Patrick Corbin took the 13th loss of the season. God, that's pretty bad. Well, he wouldn't be the only one. So for the New York Mets yesterday, they got 5 homers. They got a home run by Francisco Lindor, 2 by Nimmo, one by Alonso and one by Alvarez. So with the home runs, Lindor hits his 26th home run of the year. Nimmo hit his 21st and 22nd. Pete Alonso hit his 42nd, and Alvarez hit his 22nd homer. Jose Quintana went 7 innings, getting the second win of the year, striking out 4 batters. Patrick Corbin only couldn't even get through 4, but he struck out 2, but took the 13th loss. Basically, the Phillies ended up losing 8-0 yesterday. Fernando Tatis, who was a player that was suspended last year for steroid use, has come back this year, and he's been belting out homers like crazy. Avila took his first win of the year, and Michael Lorenzen took his 9th loss of the year. The Tampa Bay Rays beat the Boston Red Sox 8-6 in 11 innings. Valdez for Boston hit his 5th home run of the year. Ramirez for Tampa Bay took the win, but Zach Eflin started the game, but he struck out 7, but got a no decision. Cutter Crawford pitched for Boston. Pitched 3 innings, he struck out 5, but he got a no decision also. Kenley Jansen for Boston took the loss. It was the 6th of the year. I'm going to cut it short because I got something else to do. If you want to check it out later on, I'm going to have a review video up on my RBW King Reviews channel, so you can check that out after, but this is my main channel. If you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little as a few bucks a video a month, your donation can help go a long way, and thanks for listening.